welcome to... What is this show?
I don't know, man. I'm just here. I'm just here for the free drinks.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm just here for the Coke.
Yeah, I think this is Zealots of Birbio.
Yes. Oh, there's my water. That's my water. I'll just give it to you.
I'll just thank you. Okay. So welcome to this episode of the Zealots of Birbio. This is our first discussion video, and today we'll be discussing the differences between the TroRPG system and Dungeons and Dragons. And if any of you are curious to how to play the TroRPG system, maybe this will enlighten you a little bit. So, if you were to, just from your experience playing like 4 or 5 sessions of the TroRPG, what would you say the biggest differentiating factor would be?
Probably the freedom for role playing, and just like the freedom it gives you to like be your own character instead of being someone who controls the character. Because in D&D, you have the character can do certain things, and like it's like the TroRPG system, but like lots of like the things that come to role playing can like come from race and can come from like different backgrounds. But like when we're talking about the TroRPG system, like it differences aren't just because of race and religion. It comes from like what else can the character do? What's it like how, like basically like in D&D you have like certain like rules to follow. Like your dwarven cleric worships a god of light, and then there's this person who's a warlock and has like an elder god or whatever following them, and then that leads to conflict because of the difference of gods. When in the TroRPG system, it just like conflict derives from much more than differences of gods. It can come from like certain skills the character has and utilizes, like how Periette has see the big picture, and how can like the whole, like in the last episode, when I was looking being all Sherlock Holmes in that on that murder scene, that led me to conflict because of my skills, and I got curious, and I followed the clues, and that led me to that, and then we met our newest character that is also here now, and that happened because of the skills that the character has, not just because of arbitrary. Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Of like arbitrary like things that the character has to have.
I like that, yeah.
Then like things that your character can get over time.
I would find, yeah, I totally agree. Like perspective of the character and different like personality things of the character are actual, like, because how like the system works in many ways is like the stats in D&D. There's a little bit of that where intelligence, charisma, and wisdom kind of influence what your character if you roleplay them, but you don't have to roleplay them in D&D. But those kind of influence how your character acts and that kind of thing. But in the TroRPG, they're like with cautious and relatable and weird and those kind of stats. The stats are way more social and way more role-playing based, meaning that your character's like how you roleplay them really impacts the campaign, rather than it being like, I am a cleric, therefore high wisdom is my stat, and that's all there is to it.
You're right. I forgot to bring that up.
But yeah, cool. What would you say, like, in terms of combat? What are the pros and cons to the TroRPG combat system?
I think one of the pros can definitely can come from the variety of scenarios that can happen. When we were fighting the bandits, after Periette saw their weak points and used ice to freeze them, Nate was able to knock them down. Or when in the same combat scenario, Nate was able to use other bandits to like to his advantage and use like them as like just like shields and like ways to attack.
I like that.
When like in D&D it would be like roll strength, they have to roll Constitution, then you have to roll Constitution, and then go to the Lake of Fire, draw the gloves of throwing, and then do it. And like that's what a con that the TroRPG system has is that it is also a pro in its own way, but like the variety can come from the player's creativity, and creativity usually depends on the day. Sometimes a player might be full of ideas, other times they're just dead on the inside and they got nothing for you. and like
Yeah.
and like they'll just be doing spells from like D&D and like things that already exist instead of how like that already exist and like for Periete, how he incorporated painting in his own backstory into it. In contrast to Sin, who's a totally awesome and unique character, but uses a lot of D&D's own spells like Stone Skin and Phasing.
Yeah.
Unlike Periete, whose magic is mostly his own.
No, I definitely get that. I would say, yeah, there's definitely a double-edged sword having a very creative-based magic system because, like, some players are not going to be as creative as others, and some players are going to be like really creative. But in many ways, it's like pushing it to the extreme of how if a player is like really engaged in the game and really creative and like does that, they're going to be in D&D too. They're going to be adding a lot more to the game, and it's going to be more fun. And so with the true RPG system, it's going to be like it's a lot more fun when they're more creative because there's more creative capability there rather than with D&D where it's like there's a limit to creativity because it's a very hard magic system, but at the same time that makes it easier so that there's a less of a gap in the way that it's like, oh, I'm not as creative, it's going to be less fun for me, right? Like there's less of a gap there. So
another pro but also a con is the lack of rules, because like with the combat you can literally do whatever you feel is best. Like Nate, half the stuff that Nate does is literally from his own twisted mind.
Yeah.
but at the same time, there's also there used to be like a discrepancy because like, is this too epic? Is this too like out there? Like, does this make sense? Like with D&D, that there's certain things that the character can and can't do, and if they want to try, it requires like, I don't know, like a 25.
Yeah, definitely.
Or something.
Like there's a big limit, and in the RPG system, there still is like a limit there. Like I can make it really hard, but at the same time, if you're Nate and like last session he rolled a 20 or 24 or something.
Because stat
like
modifiers,
just
people.
Insane. Yeah. I think it was 20, and he was supposed to roll a 15.
21 actually. Was
21, yeah, and he's supposed to roll a 15 to beat this thing, but it's like, nope, 21. Okay, on a D10 roll, okay. So like, yeah, I feel like that's a good thing in many ways because it can really make epic situations, and that's kind of what I was going for when making the true RPG system. I wanted to make it as epic and like, I don't know, role playing based and like interesting and passionate as possible, and so that's why I had the whole willpower system. And actually, that's a good segue. How would you compare the willpower system? Have you ever seen the willpower system in any other RPGs?
I haven't played many other RPGs, but this is I've seen other RPGs systems that I've wanted to play, but I've never got the chance to. But none of them have really incorporated a willpower system into like a physical like stat that can be modified depending on how you roleplay and what the situation depends on. Like the system, like I might be completely wrong, but it seems to like derive from anime and shows that have like characters that like how in like for example when a character is like losing against all odds, but then there's like feels a spark of like just like
drive
and like power and like just like together there's like, or like I guess in like most anime, the power of friendship. They got like they can like roll 20s on a D10 and like this kind of replicates that feeling.
Yeah,
almost.
I actually got it from Lord of the Rings when we were doing the Lord of the Rings marathon. I think I actually had a conversation with you afterwards.
Did. Yeah,
and I was like, I'm going to make an RPG where willpower is the main thing, because we did a Lord of the Rings marathon, watched it all in one day, and one thing I noticed as I was comparing D&D to Lord of the Rings, because they're somewhat similar, and like D&D was inspired by
elves, dwarves, orcs.
So as I was like comparing them, I was like, one thing that D&D does not have is willpower. They have hit points, which is like a very video gamey idea of like having max health that decreases, but like they don't have anything like when you're hurt, it actually hurts your ability to do things, and or it actually drives you to be stronger. Like they don't have anything like that, and I felt like that's a really interesting, versatile thing that is very important. And in Lord of the Rings, a very big part of that was like when they're climbing the mountain, even at the very end, they're climbing like Mount Doom or whatever. And
was that a Mordor? No,
I think it's Mount Doom.
Some
mountain, yeah, with an ominous name. Yeah, no.
Named like which 5 are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, when they were climbing the mountain or whatever, it was a huge willpower thing where they kept. It wasn't like, oh yeah, they're hurting, and like they're dying or anything like that. Like that wasn't the big thing. It was willpower. I think it was Frodo. He like fell. He collapsed, which is like having zero willpower.
Because Frodo basically gave up, but it was Sam's willpower that kept the entire story going.
Exactly, yeah, and that was like a huge part. And I feel like that was such like a meaningful, amazing thing. And I was like, why is there a gap of that in D&D? And why have I not seen this? Like I've played many different role playing games and like systems and stuff. It's like why is this just a gap in all these role playing systems? So I was like, that was like one of the core ideas.
Like, the power of because like with willpower, it can like change the entire game. Because like lots of people might not know, but like there are like 6, I guess 7 kind of levels of willpower. There's 3, which is your base, like you get no buff. Then 4, 5, 6, that's +1, +3, then +5 respectively. And then when it comes to then it's 3, 2, 1, 0. 2 is -1, 1 is -3, and 0, so your character can't act.
Yeah, they can't do anything.
Basically, every character in Lord of the Rings was at -1. With the exception of Frodo, who was at 0, and Sam, who was at +6. It was Sam's if you're going to talk about this from like a true RPG and role-playing thing, if this was like around the table, all of them rolling dice, it was Sam's stupid 29s that kept the party going and kept Frodo able to throw the ring into the fire. Like Gollum threw the ring into the fire, but anyway.
Yeah.
Like, no matter, like, because like, the true RPG system, from my interpretation, can like, the system can bring about great change in the game, because like you can be in a complete losing battle, but if even one character has high willpower, then the game's basically just like thrown in your favor. Even though I'm not saying it's easy, I'm just saying like you have a greater chance than you did before.
For sure. And if something dramatic happens, like you're fighting in a battle and then your friend dies, it's like that usually you'd roll willpower in that kind of moment. And if your character is like very invested and like cares about their friend, that kind of thing, then they would like be so driven to move forward.
Especially if the character who died had no chance to speak, had no like parting words. If they're just dead, then like that has a great impact on the character. And it's up to the roll of the dice, the GM and yourself as well, to decide like what does this do to them. Are they encouraged to go forward? Are they like are they broken?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the biggest thing, because like that also has to do with their cool and invested stats, which is like a big part of how you roleplay them too.
In the last session, my path could have been completely like out of commission for the entire fight, if it wasn't for the fact that his willpower, instead of decreasing, increased instead. He was able to keep on going with basically one hit point left, and basically him and Nate just carried the entire fight because Gurren Lagann stuff happened.
Yeah,
it was pretty amazing.
It was. Oh, jeez.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think the true RPG system is welcoming to DMs who want to DM for the first time?
I would say most definitely, because it's simple. That's the main thing.
Because like, from what I've seen, like I'm not sure about the DM perspective, but I don't think, like, from what I've seen, there aren't that many rules when it comes to DMing. Am I right? Am I wrong? So that
you have to make like
that can be daunting for newcomers.
Something I really like actually about DMing, that you wouldn't think, is making NPCs is like one of the main things in the game. Because you have to make like their motivation. Yeah, like Birbio, of course. You have to make their motivations. Like for Birbio, would be the
he's not an NPC
to destroy the world.
He's not an NPC. He's more of a divine figure that rules over all of us even now.
Yeah, but nonetheless, when you're making an NPC, it's pretty much making a player character, or like making a character. The character sheet's slightly different. It's a little simpler, a little faster, because that would be really inefficient to make NPCs like that. But it's very similar, and so if as a DM or a game master, whatever it is for this game, I think I called it a game master for True RPG. When you're making characters, it's like you can have so many character ideas, and it's like, I can make this into an NPC. Rather than in D&D where it's like, I have a character idea, and then it just becomes a boring character because it's not easy to make stat sheets for them, and there's so much stuff in my way, and I just have to use a generic commoner if I want to be lazy. With the True RPG, it's made so that like all the NPCs have like depth to them and could be player characters.
Yeah. A question though, like, compared to D&D, there's for being a DM or a GM, there's a definite lack of rules comparing them. Do you think having more rules is better for D&D's favor, or do you think that the lack of rules also helps? Because for new DMs who are DMing for the first time, it might be awesome to have like a set of guidelines to help them along instead of just like stumbling in the darkness.
I think it's a double-edged sword in many ways because with the true RPG system, like Philip, for example, he's wanting to start a campaign at some point using the true RPG system, and he's really happy. Like he's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to use the true RPG system because it's simple for rules, and D&D has so many rules, so that'd be like he was like overwhelmed. By that, and I feel like that's a big problem with a lot of DMs, and also just like. For any role-playing games, so many groups want to get into it, but no one wants to DM because it's like, I'm overwhelmed by all these rules and all this stuff I have to know.
Or they just don't find it that fun.
Or, they don't find it fun because they're going through rules. With the true RPG system, it's all just like on the one site, like very plain and like simple, and a lot of the rules, that's actually one thing I tried to make, a lot of the rules you can just change. If you're the DM, it's just like, I could use this magic system, or this magic system is just a suggestion, and I could base a lot of the things off of, like, still use weird, that kind of thing, but a lot of it's still going to be...
If you don't like it,
yeah, exactly. A lot of it's still going to be very versatile in how you can use it, and I find that's very important.
Me and Phil were talking about this, and when it comes, like, the players that he wants to invite have never played an RPG before in their lives, and I'm not sure if the true RPG system is going to be good for new players, not necessarily new DMs, players who have never role played, who aren't really that into acting in general, and who haven't really played an RPG, and that's why I think for him, I think D&D might be better, just because of the players he's dealing with.
Or even something more simple like Dread.
Yes, or
that would be better because it's very not rules heavy, so you can focus on role playing because that's all there is really to the game.
And if you want to quit, and unlike other RPGs, if you want to, like you can quit mid game and Dread just by knocking over the tower and going to get lunch.
yeah. No, I think the true RPG system, that is one flaw. It's not. I wouldn't call it a flaw to the system necessarily, but yeah, it's a detriment in the way that like you have to. But that's the same thing with any group. You have to find a good group that actually cares.
It's like the margin for players who can really like. If I'm out of line, I apologize, but that can like really get into the true RPG system is very niche.
Yeah, I can see
D&D, who's like it's a popular out there.
Well, yeah, because with D&D there are many different facets. Like you could go in for like a video gaming, like battle, combat, that kind of aspect
with,
to
like,
it.
Rule like the fourth,
which is more
system.
More like the fourth system and more like rules based and that kind of thing. Or you could go into it for the role playing. Or you could go into it for like the exploration or like the traps or just discovering the world that your DM has made. Like there are many different ways you could go into and like things you might enjoy more. And with the true RPG system, it's very pigeonholed into just the role playing aspect, and maybe like the understanding the DM's world and that kind of thing too. But definitely more role playing based, and not all groups are into that, right? So that's just about finding the system that works for your group. Like, I think it works for our group really well, and it would work for another group that I have really well. But
if you guys want to get into the true RPG system, make sure that if you have players, they're already into role playing themselves. Or if you want to ease them in, maybe this is also a good idea. But if this is their first time playing a role playing game ever, then I would recommend D&D for them, just because of the more like.
It also depends on how engaged. Like there are different types of engagement. If your players just aren't engaged at all, no role-playing game is good for them because you have to put effort in. But if they want to be engaged in like the rules and the things that are like definite and like they can actually understand
and rely on,
then D&D is good for them because they'll actually put effort into learning the rules and understanding it. But if they don't want to care about that and they're like overwhelmed by that, then the true RPG is better because
if they want to take like a swig of vodka and then just charge into them with like a giant sword and hope and see what happens.
And
keep on rolling ones when you want to do something cool, but it's like, nope, sorry. Birbio said otherwise. Like it really depends on what you and your players are into.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like that's a huge part of the true RPG system is just like the freedom of what you want to do, you can do, and that's quite limiting in D&D. And I've actually experienced this. I've had players that have like wanted to do things, and then they've been turned away by D&D's rules, and like, oh, I'm too limited. I can't do what I feel like my character would do in the situation.
Like for example, if you want to if you're like a rogue and you want to climb up a building and then jump on a piece of broken building and then jump on like a giant and stab it. You can't do that in D&D.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's so many rolls, and that would take extra turns. You don't have enough movement speed, and it's like that's so it gets too specific with the rules and limits players. Rather than like in the true RPG system where it would just roll nimble to see if you can do that, and you can add like a situational bonus to this, or you can just increase your willpower for this, or like
if you have a skill, incorporate that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you'd think that period they really can't. Like, if you wanted to do that, you think not. But I would argue that maybe seeing the big picture could like see like what areas are stable, where can I jump, that could also help him. Like, it doesn't just have to be I have a climbing skill, that's good.
Yeah.
If you have skills that can like affect like not the environment, but can like you can notice things, or you can move things, like. It's not just like, I have movement speed.
And you can use your role playing and your players like your character's perception of the world and that kind of thing into it to help them.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's huge. Also skills, massive. Skills are massive. Like, I love the skill system. I actually took it from Rule of Shoes or something like that. Another RPG, but I think it was a micro RPG. It was like very, very simple, and I just kind of took that aspect of it of gaining skills from experience. In that game, I think it's whenever you roll doubles or something like that, you gain an experience point, and you can use that to get a skill, making it so that you roll like more dice. I think it's just d6s. Okay. You roll like more dice according to what level your skill is. In the true RPG, it's a little different, but at the same time, it's like when you roll a 1, you get a skill in that, and you get like slight bonuses because like, you're learning from your mistakes.
Although you do fail the check.
You do fail the check, yeah. Like, it's always sad when that happens, but you also gain a skill, so it's not punishing.
Like peach check.
Feeling peachy.
Like feeling peachy, that's the most powerful skill in the game.
Yeah, for sure. But like, I love that.
Never got to be utilized even once.
Yeah, never once. But yeah, I feel like it's really, really cool when you have skills that you make. I feel like it's more personal and more like built for your character when you get to name the skill according to what you've done and what your character would do. That way you can like use it creatively rather than in D&D where you don't ever gain skills except for like a few times with like certain class features and that kind of thing later on. But like once you have your skills at the beginning, that's what you have. With the true RPG, you can change out your skills, you can upgrade them, there's a lot you can do with that, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think are the similarities between the systems besides they're both RPG systems? Okay,
well, one thing is you could probably say it as a similarity with in D&D you roll a d20, you roll a 20-sided dice, meaning that each number has a 5% chance. In the RPG, it's a 10% chance, but it's the same kind of thing.
I'm not saying rule-wise, I'm saying in concept-wise. In my opinion, it's the requirement of communication between the player and the DM.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely.
Regardless of the system, just for anyone who's watching, just make sure if you're a DM or you're a player, communicate with you.
Yeah.
Because like with Nate,
that's huge.
With Nate and the whole Black Wolf storyline, if he just wanted to do it and then didn't ask our DM about it.
Yeah, I feel like the communication between player and DM is huge because if there's something like, even just there's a little bit of like in one of my games there's a lot of what's it called? Amity? No, that's friendship.
Animosity.
Animosity between myself and another player.
Was it one of us? Or was it
no, it was a different group.
Okay.
But in that situation, we should have just talked. Like I was DMing, he was playing. He did not like what I was doing because like I don't know, it was too story-based for his liking. He wanted more dungeons or something. But it was like, we had a little bit of animosity, and he was kind of showing attitude the whole game, and it kind of just took down the game, soured the experience, because we didn't... What I should have done, just in retrospect, I should have stepped aside with him, talked to him just for 5 minutes, and kind of just had good communication between us. And it's like, what is the problem? What do you want me to do? And it's like, is it just... Are you going to continue to have a bad attitude? And like, if so, I might just not invite him to my game again. Yeah. But like... I hope that shouldn't have to happen. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time, it's just communication. That's the problem.
And like, since you're a DM, and you might want to elaborate this, but as a DM, if you have an idea for a character, like one of the players' characters, and like if it's like, oh, I want to change it up in this way, I don't think you can just like be like, okay, I want to do it. I'm just gonna do it without talking to them about the like. Are you willing to have your character change in this way? Then just being like, just stepping over them, being like, this is my game. I can change your character however I want to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You shouldn't do that.
There's a certain level of respect that has to be like the players have to respect the DM, but at the same time, the DM definitely has to respect the players. Mm-hmm. And like
in RPG or
they
D&D.
They can't see their world as something that's actually one of the hugest things as a DM
for RPG or
D&D? For any system, the DM has to get detached from their world in a way. Like they make their world, they can love their world, but they can't hold on to it dearly and say, this is my plan,
because their players will never
go with their expectations.
Yeah, the players will unintentionally go out of their way to ruin everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not their fault.
And
it's not their intention.
It's not ever their intention, or really their fault. But yeah.
Well, they do it. It's funny, but it's
funny.
It's not their intention.
It happens so many times though, where it's like, I have this cool plan of what's going to go on. I have this lore that's going to be developed, and then it's just like, oh yeah, we just kill the NPC. Oh.
Well, new campaign.
Tier. Yeah, like that happens a lot when DMing, and it's you have to kind of get used to it. But at the same time, it's like that's one of the best things about the game is how the players actually interact with the world and change things and like make a difference.
Like if you care about your world and you like put a lot of thought in it, the players will also care about your world. Like if you have, like, even if the NPC is annoying, they'll care about him and want to destroy whoever his very existence.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. If you
make the players care about what's going on, then that's the main thing.
Even if they care about it, even if they are into it in a negative way, like they don't they
hate an NPC
because you made it to be hated.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good thing. You did a good job.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a huge thing. And also making a place or making a location, people don't usually think about locations, but if you make a location that the players feel like is like their home or they connect to or like they really can come back
like
to.
Like Perth, right? That's what
or even Zakar. Just like Zakar, yeah. If they can really get attuned to a place and really feel like they exist in this place, that can really tie them to the world. And that's huge.
Make sure the players exist there and aren't just like a third party, like make the players get involved with this, like having like Parathe's like this was never planned, but having his unintentional involvement with Zeth, right?
Yeah,
like this was not intended.
That ties him to the world,
but
and
this made me as a player and as a player, and then like with the character, I really care about like what happens with him connected to Zeth because this involves me now, because it's not just like, oh, it's an evil cult, I have to stop. It's like I'm technically affiliated with the evil cult in some way, and so that involves the characters in some way.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that. And also like just the idea of a character being like part and mixed into the world and like being involved in things and tied to the world. That's so huge, and I feel like that's such a noob mistake by the DMs, by many like noob DMs, is to, sure, they send them on quests, they have this certain thing, but they don't like tie them into a guild or a faction, and they don't make it so that the players actually believe in like a religion in the world or anything like that.
They make them characters in a video game and not characters in a book. Is what they're trying to say, right?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's like one of the biggest things, and also just being. On the topic of player character really feeling involved and feeling like they are a part of the world, that has to do with also how they roleplay. Like if they're describing their character as, for example, Quandrius does this, rather than
Quandrius?
I don't know. If they like describe their character by their name doing something rather than saying I do this, there are two problems. There's a pro and a con to each of those. When you say I do this, that ties you into the character, makes it so you feel like you are them. But at the same time, that can like keep you from remembering, if you're not that experienced with role playing, that can keep you from remembering that you are not your character. That your character's doing other things. So that can just make it so you're role playing yourself.
I prefer I hop on and off depending on how I feel about it. Like sometimes I feel comfortable with saying like in high dramatic moments I'll switch to I do this because it kind of invests me in more. But I'll usually say like Parathe does this or he feels this way because. Like, sure, it detaches you in some way, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because Parathe is still a character.
Yeah.
A player.
It detaches you when you describe your character, but at the same time, it makes it so that you kind of, you notice this is not me, but they're a character in the story, and so that can kind of make it more, like, narrative.
One thing that D&D has that the true RPG system has, well, I'm not talking about classes, because, the characters are the class, but races. If you could go back and like if you're making a brand new world, not stand on the side, would you implement races?
Yeah, for sure. I did actually make races for the True RPG system.
Oh, you did?
I made it so you can translate the D&D races into the True RPG system.
Okay.
And Philip has, for his idea, he's been trying to flesh that out, add more to it, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I've done that. I've made a transition, but I feel like it's for the stain on his hide, it didn't work because I wanted it to be more like realistic.
It's like a Renaissance,
Renaissance idea.
realistic, yeah.
Yeah.
Super real,
Really realistic.
Gurren Lagann, like
Yeah.
anime. No,
Okay, yeah,
realistic. As hell.
But yeah, like I felt like I didn't want to make it as high fantasy. But you know, you could definitely
fantasy, yeah.
do it. It's more low fantasy, but you could definitely add races or use the races that I have in the system.
It's actually, I think just State on His Hide is kind of on the breach because it's like definitely lower fantasy. But then again, Perry they kind of just open the hole to hell.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I guess Perry kind of makes it breach on more.
Yeah,
fantasy
definitely,
stuff.
definitely.
Because
Because you're a very magic-based character.
and like the way that he does his magic also connects it back to low fantasy. So it's kind of a loop that.
Yeah, I tried to make it low.
Keeps the believability.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of being like, I have a toad's foot and God's beard. Boom, we have magic now.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, the clap was really loud.
that was really loud, yeah. No, I definitely got that. That's something I really don't like about, like, actually, one thing I really hate in D&D, really hate,
ladies and gentlemen.
hate, is the, like, component system. With like gold components.
Yeah, I don't see the point.
That's so stupid.
Because even a wizard can use sorcerers.
Yeah, no.
Focuses. They don't have to.
Not even just that though. Like with they have the component system, and I get the place that it has there. It's for more of a video gamey playing system, and like sure. But when it comes to gold, that's so stupidly limiting. Where it's like, in order to cast this spell, I have to have 500 GP worth of diamonds. That's so stupid because that doesn't work dramatically in the campaign.
It's literally like a pay-to-win system.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, what if the DM has a system where everyone's poor and they don't have diamonds anywhere in the world? Oh, I guess you just can't choose that spell. That could be really interesting.
Or useful.
That's so, or useful. Like, that's so, like, it just takes away the drama from the game. And that also encourages things like, oh, we're going to go on a shopping session where we spend all the time getting everything we need for the rest of the campaign.
Imagine if Gandalf was on the bridge and he was like, ready to throw the bridge, and he's like, wait, I have to pull out my debit card. I have to pay. Crap. Hey, Frodo, can I borrow some cash? Oh yeah, Gandalf. And then did the spell.
It's like, oh, I gotta resurrect him. Yes, I will step forward. Oh wait, I don't have the diamonds I need. Oh, farewell.
Sorry.
What? It's so stupid.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Like it's like
I don't like that.
It's like if you add loot boxes into like a game. It's not fun.
Like I get it if you're a DM that wants to like video game everything and make it so it's like you have to take care of rations and gold and all that and jumble money and all that, juggle money. But it's like if you're that kind of DM, you're not caring about the dramatic aspect of the game, which is like I find, in my opinion, that's the most important part of the game.
Once again, depends on person to person.
It definitely depends, and also the group. If the group's more into that and wants to be more invested in the game and more invested in like the world and has a long-term campaign,
or wants to play like a video game.
Yeah. If that's the group, go ahead. That's fine. Yeah. And if that's the group, don't play the TRPG system. Very very bluntly, that's not the system.
This system is very like high drama.
Yeah.
The players have to.
With the TRPG system, you could literally, exactly. You have to care because literally what you could do with a TRPG system is just cut out all the video gaming aspects and just have a set of scenes where it's like, okay, now your characters are in this scene. What do you do? And then they have the dramatic scene, and then it's done. It's like now you're in this scene after that, and then continue. You could just go on like that.
Also,
I'm not playing the Stain on His Hide like that, but you could definitely do that with the TRPG. D&D, you could not.
Another thing that RPG has that D&D really doesn't in a way. I'm not sure if it does because I guess some homebrew you can, but like this is kind of like just like base. You don't have to really make it. But like I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys. But we have an idea for Nate's sheath and when a parrot these new weapons. And our plan is to incorporate magic into the weapons themselves, and not just like they're enchanted, and like you can like change the variables of the items that go inside. Like if it's like a
you can pretty much make it a fire sword or an electricity sword or that kind of thing. Yeah.
In D&D, you can't really do that.
No, it's more limiting in that way. Yeah.
But when it comes to that, we have a plan to actually make it
exactly.
The players get the materials and do it and they have themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And also there's the idea of like you can kind of do that with certain spells like magic weapon and that kind of thing. But that's not the creativity of the players. That's, I saw this spell in the book, so I'm going to cast it. And I feel like that's so much more interesting when it's like, I actually put in effort and care because I had this cool idea to do this. And then they put work forward to get that. And then they finally are able to do that consistently, rather than it just being I have a spell slot and cast the spell that's in the book. Like there's just a lack of creativity there, and that comes back to the idea of like creativity is a big part of Magic.
And one thing, if you're gonna make a character in the true RPG system, what you have to realize is that all characters are very frail. With only 10 hit points. So you can be like, oh, he trained at a ninja school. He was trained by Buddha and Gandhi. I don't know why Gandhi's there in like combat school. Yes. He was like trained by like the best martial artists in the world. But you have to realize that even though he is, like, it's very frail. Like,
I'm sorry, I just can't get the idea of Gandhi doing kung fu.
Yeah, I don't know why I said that. I apologize.
Kung fu Gandhi. Oh,
I mean, in Civilization,
Gandhi is
a warmonger.
Yeah. Oh,
so I guess it is kind of realistic.
It's great. It's very realistic, according to the standards of Civ. Yes.
Yeah. Gandhi's like off his like
new
medication, so he's like, game over, guys. We
were
watching the news.
Kung Fu Gandhi.
I mean,
yes, Gandhi Lee.
But yeah, just like characters are very fragile. So so when making a character, you have to realize that, kind of incorporate it.
Also, that works. I kind of when making the system, I made that a big part of it because I don't like in D&D how it's like hit points. So you can get stabbed 50 times with a dagger. That's ridiculous. That doesn't make sense logically.
It's not because like yeah, you can get stabbed 50 times by a dagger in like D&D, and you will only have like a slight cut. Like your character's either too overpowered or weak in D&D. Like depending on who you're fighting. When it's a RPG system, it's just balanced straight up.
And that's a huge thing because in D&D there's CR and they put so much effort into trying to balance combat. With the true RPG, it's always balanced because everyone is equal.
Unless they have the willpower up plus.
Unless they have that, but then again, that's still that just makes the fight easier because you're driven, and so that adds to the drama. Yeah, for sure. Like, also, it adds more like meaning into fights, like rather than just we walk along and we find some goblins and we kill them. Yeah. It's more like we walk along, the goblins poke me in the back, I look back at them, and then they insult me, and I'm like. My ego is so huge. I'm like, no, this is not happening. And so your willpower goes up, and you just destroy them. Like that's way more. That's narratively better.
And one thing in the true RPG, in my opinion, has over D&D is that usually in D&D combat is in one session you can usually expect like let's say 2 combat encounters, right?
And they also take so long because of how it works.
Like they're long, and like in the end, not many of these combat encounters really matter. Because if it's like a small thing,
they don't move forward the plot.
Yeah, or the goblins. Like it doesn't matter, but because like either your character's overpowered, or it's like you don't really care, and you're literally just plowing through them to get to the next area. When in the true RPG system, more specifically, staying on his hide, combat doesn't happen often. Like this is the first in Chapter 5,
and if it happens, it's because of what the players do.
In like hour 5, basically, that's when the first combat encounter happens.
And then
since
after
combat,
since
combat,
what kind of you could call it combat? Yeah. Like it's not just like you roll initiative and then combat ends and like there's like a structure to it. It's more like Sin got stabbed in I think the third episode. He got stabbed, and it's like that's technically combat. But it's not really combat because it's just part of the story. And so it's like, that's how it should be. In D&D, it slows things down. It's like, roll initiative, and then they go around the table and do their actions. With the RPG, it's just like, what would be the most dramatic? What happens? What do you want to do?
And is that it?
I think that's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to this discussion of us talking for way too long.
Yeah.
We'll be back maybe next week with another episode. Who knows?
Yeah. And hopefully no one dies. And promise me it'll be fine. We're all good here.
Bye. Oh, crap.
Let's do the first video.